You want to have some, as much Q&A as you want, but I want to say some things about this film and give you some commentary from Nina Simone herself. But I start this with a quotation from Nina Simone about the casual robbery that black artists face in this country. Just expect it. Your typical artist dies, broken nail. She said this in 1976. I made 35 albums. They bootlegged 70. The Devil Finds Work, James Baldwin's marvelously incisive 1976 book about the American film industry. The devil, that's the film industry. Okay? The devil finds work. And Baldwin's concerned in this book about the congenital misrepresentation of black people in films in America. Baldwin observed, the cinematic translation of someone's story involves making very subtle and difficult choices. The root motive of these choices can be gauged by the effect of these choices. And the effect of these deliberate choices, deliberately made, and Baldwin could write his ass off, but deliberately made, must be considered as resulting in a willed and deliberate act. Think of this film we just watched. That is, the film which we are seeing is the film we are intended to see. Why? What do the filmmakers wish us to learn? My lingering response to this cinematic effort is that it conveys a deliberate anti-activist message. In her film, Liz Garbus is too often up to some vintage J. Edgar Hoover-like treacherous shit. Her effort makes moves to discredit and neutralize the impact of Nina Simone's political daring and her public example. It is a not so subtle warning of the dangers of confronting the USA's wickedness that keeps dogging people of color around. Nina Simone was the absolute first of our recording artists in the modern era to be intentionally and deliberately confrontational about singing out against racism. Nina, she was the shero that took African American music as the weapon it was always intended to be to the stage and deep into the public arena. She cut and paved the road that Sam Cooke, Curtis Mayfield, the Last Poets, James Brown, Gil Scott-Heron, and all the rest that followed. She did that. The Liz Garbus film, which is co-signed by Nina's daughter, spends a lot of time reveling in how Nina Simone was beaten down into mental distress without significant interpretation of that. Where's some black psychiatrists up in this mess? She seems to wish the audience to learn of and to fear the horrors and the futility of fighting back against the oppressor's plans for us. The jailing of Lauryn Hill over tax issues has meaning here. They didn't just want her money. They wanted her fine black butt in jail. Publicly vilified, incarcerated, with 6 children. The word to Kendrick Lamar, the Tribe Called Quest, and any others unwilling to roll over and just take it as duck. The title finds itself. What happened, Miss Simone? This is a highly revealing of a clutch of ill-informed and loveless underlying motives, and what Toni Morrison said in her 1974 novel Sula as a malicious and evil wondering. First of all, the filmmaker herself could have found some more discoverable information about the meanings inherent in Simone's momentous landmark achievement in smashing through the barriers, barring black truth that mainstream media in the USA has scuffled to keep in place. Since the beginning of the film industry, rather the recording industry, 1920. Prior to Miss Simone's courageous songs in 1964, African Americans were restricted to recording only apolitical songs that allowed white racist America to avoid being confronted with how we black captives actually feel about the brain chains that bind us. Up until the early 1960s, black vocalists showed a lack of nerve and knowledge, not unlike a lot of this unaware, passive, stagnant, and ignorant Negro music on white folks' radio stations these days. Juicy J and all that type of mess. After the openly unpunished assassination of Medgar Evers in Jackson, Mississippi in 1963, and the unpunished white savage bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama in September of that same blood-stained year, the song Mississippi Goddamn came out of Nina Simone. John Coltrane's visceral instrumental Alabama poured out of him in this same era. But Simone shook up the world, Muhammad Ali style. No black artist ever publicly sang such comprehensive words of confrontational bravery and unflinching truth. Any phrases from Mississippi Goddamn are still shocking. Alabama got me so upset, Tennessee made me lose my rest, and everybody knows about Mississippi Goddamn. Hound dogs on my trail, school children sitting in jail. She talked about what? Reflecting the times. Lord have mercy on this land of mine. We all gonna get it in due time. Don't tell me, I'll tell you. Me and my people are just about due. Man, these are words they don't want said. That's right. Please don't stir him up. You just plain rotten. You too damn lazy. Your thinking's crazy. I want my equality for my sister, my brother, my people, and me. But this whole country is corrupted with lies. You all should die, and die like flies. What'd she say? You don't have to live next to me. Just give me my equality. This is the black voice talking. They try to shape it like we want to get all up in the suburbs and shit. Right. An honestly studious filmmaker observer should have a clue of what happened in the aftermath of how Nina threw down the gauntlet against racism in the USA. This song and others like Go to Hell, Old Jim Crow, Langston Hughes' The Backlash Blues, Revolution, Parts 1 and 2, To Be Young, Gifted in Black after Lorraine Hansberry, For Women, I Wish How I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. All of these allowed black women artists, intellect, and socio-political consciousness to soar and shine on record with their clothes on, and freed them from singing just about being beaten down, having broken hearts, and receiving late-night booty calls. You know, that Mary J. Blige Trail of Tears scene. This society prefers either the bedraggled, long-suffering, unfulfilled, or those over-sexualized black women, loose-booty, smoking hot types in the public sphere. Cerebral and culturally grounded black women are considered emasculating and too threatening in a multiplicity of ways. Any black woman with her hair locked up that goes to work in a white folks' office knows just exactly what I'm talking about. You look so threatening. American society seems to be unable of even imagining a righteous combination of a smart and sexy woman of any type. But Nina Simone didn't believe in holding anything black back. She came with all that the African diaspora culture had to offer, including Exuma, the Bahamian song of the voodoo serpent Damballa spirit. Going deep into the song, she extemporizes which features the promissory, taunting lines. On the seventh day, God will be there. On the seventh night, Satan will be there. You slavers will know what it's like to be a slave. Slave to your mind, slave to your race. You won't go to heaven. You won't go to hell. You lie in your grave with the stench and the smell. Oh, Damballa, come Damballa. You know, when Nina sings this, you know, with fortissimo, thumping, left hand classical piano, and doing curl cues with the right hand, singing this terrible voodoo song. Yeah, she was indeed. She was the definition of the term trailblazer. She became a performing arts black woman who refused to be relegated to the subservient, politically passive place. Of course, like all of us, subjected to the twisted, apolitical socialization that is drilled into black people in the USA, Ms. Simone had to grow into the role of becoming a disturber of the racist peace. And I Put a Spell on You, her autobiography. She recalled, quote, I had not made a connection between the fights that I had and any wider struggle for justice because of the way I was raised. The Wayman way was to turn away from the prejudice and to live your life the best you could, as if acknowledging the existence of racism was itself a kind of defeat. See how they get us? She wrote, until songs like Mississippi Goddamn came bursting out of me, I had musical problems as well. I sat on stage, and artists, separate somehow. And white folks tell you, you're a job, don't speak out. You're a singer, don't speak out. Just suffer peacefully. What Malcolm X said, they don't want us to stop suffering, they just want us to suffer peacefully. This is how I felt, coming as I did from a classical background. Once her professional career started, though, significant mentors found her. Langston Hughes, James Baldwin, Stokely Carmichael, and especially Lorraine Hansberry. They helped school this child. In the USA's mainstream cultural history, black warriors are always treated vengefully, without a doubt, more than the rest of us, and never forgiven for defiantly rubbing the oppressor's faces in their own hateful contradictions. This country swoons over forgiveness from black people and frowns on doing justice to black people. The film that pays respectful tribute to Nina Simone has not yet been made, but it will be one that focuses bright white lights on all of the dirt, societal, business, and interpersonal, done to wound her and push her to the ledge. Garber's film indulges too much time in one of institutional racism's greatest sins, blaming the victim for the hurt that is inflicted upon them. The film doesn't talk enough about the impure robbery and bitter censorship that black artists have been saddled with, especially in the USA. The film's title, for one thing, provides cover for the industry that punished our high priestess for opening up the floodgates of music of stern socio-political critique that continued publicly unabated until white folks' business devised the repressive sounds of disco in the late 1970s. Our music of intelligence and black consciousness still rears its head, but it's been mostly driven underground here in the 21st century. The second evil wondering, y'all got to hear this, comes from the Negroes who should have been standing in solidarity with Nina Simone. These Negroes include the original source of the question that is the film's title. I'm talking about Marguerite Johnson, aka Maya Angelou, who published an interview with Simone billed as Impressions of a Poet in Red Book magazine. That's not a Native American magazine, I want y'all to know. Red Book magazine in November 1970. They indeed were impressions. Remarkably, she asked the following signifying and editorialized questions. What happened, Miss Simone? And you hear this, you wonder, that Nina wanted to smack the taste out of her mouth. What happened, Miss Simone? Specifically, what happened to your big eyes, bitch? That quickly veiled to hide the loneliness. What happened to you? There's more often than a little bit of mess to unpack in this statement. What happened to you? To your voice, which has so little tenderness. What? Yet overflows with your commitment to the battle of life. Coming from a woman who'd already had experienced a failed career as a professional singer, Maya Angelou I'm talking about, there's a large and ugly quality of catty envy that comes through in this misguided disrespect of Nina Simone, including the range of feeling in Nina's superlative, evocative voice. One would think that no person who'd ever heard Nina Simone sing to be young, gifted, and black, Why the King of Love is Dead, or the ultra-romantic In the Dark, or Bessie Smith's Hot and Raunchy, I Need a Little Sugar in My Bowl, or Aaron Neville's Tell It Like It Is, could opine that Nina Simone's voice lacked tenderness? Niggers, please. Though a veteran of the lying, twisted nature of the music industry, Angelou seemed all too eager for approval not to bash Nina Simone in a white magazine in 1970. Miss Angelou should have known better. She herself had made an album called Miss Calypso. Y'all ever see that? Oh, shit. Miss Calypso, Maya Angelou, in 1957. She allowed herself to appear on the cover as an exotic primitive in a sweaty or oiled up Teddy Pendergrass style in a long loincloth dancing in front of a jungle campfire with a text which fabricates that Miss Thang was born in Cuba, not Stamps, Arkansas. The liner notes lie that, quote, her father is a full-blooded Watusi, the tallest tribe in the world. He was 6'5" and her mama was 6'7". Liz Garber's film takes the negative aspect of Angelou's questions and runs straight to the bank with them. In a Red Book interview, Nina is quoted confidently as saying, I have the power to convince, and I'm bound to use it. I must address myself to the needs of my people. My people need inspiration, end quote. However, Angelou's interview concludes with lines that contribute to the anti-black freedom struggle layer of the film. Maya takes off her gele, puts on her Aunt Thomasina plantation mammy's polka dot head rag for these last pitiful lines from Red Book. She, Nina Simone, is loved or feared, adored or disliked. She is an extremist, extremely realized. Negroes, please. By the time Angelou published Heart of a Woman in 1981, the fourth of her autobiographies, she was more seasoned, successful, and thus able to be more objectively honest about singing voices. In that book, she recalls that back in '58, Maya Angelou was, quote, still a little-known nightclub singer who was said to have more determination than talent. She was talking about somebody's voice. By then, she could admit that she tried to support herself by singing, although she didn't have, quote, good pitch, unquote. By way of contrast, Nina Simone was known to have perfect pitch. On the honest tip, Maya also writes about when Billie Holiday profanely screamed on her to shut the hell up while she was trying to sing some slow blues on stage in Sausalito, California. 11 years after she trashed Nina Simone in print, Maya revealed the truth of what Billie Holiday revealed to her. Putting on her prophetess hat, Billie Holiday told Maya Angelou, I see you want to be famous and live luxuriously. Well, you're going to be famous, but it won't be for singing. Now wait, you and I both know that you don't sing all that good. You're going to be real famous though. Well, you better start asking yourself right now, when you get famous, who can you trust? Just remember, Billie Holiday told you, child, you can't get too high for somebody not to bring your ass down. Taking further cues from Angelou's pedestrian psychological speculations, the film talks too much about mental health without an in-depth examination of the entities and the people that abuse Nina Simone. This most notably includes the apolitical, damning, and psychological reportage commentary coming from both her late husband and her doubly wounded daughter. Neither of them seems to wonder much about the mental damage done to her from the 10 years of savage beatings inflicted by the muscular, swaggering, ex-New York City detective lieutenant pig of a husband and greedy slave-driving manager. As Simone's autobiography details, Andrew Stroud of the NYCPD was widely known and feared in his Harlem precinct as an explosive person. Anybody black of some age know that in the 1950s, the black policeman could only whoop ass in the ghetto.
Right.
Now, you better not write a white person a ticket. Quote from Nina. People in town said he wasn't the sort of man you messed around with. Frankie Lyman, y'all know Frankie Lyman? Why the fools fall in love? Hmm? Frankie Lyman said what he saw Andrew throw a man off a roof in Harlem. Well, now you couldn't always believe what Frankie said. He was a junkie. But the real point was if somebody told that story about the roof, nobody in Harlem laughed. They didn't know if it was true, but they could believe it. The manner in which Stroud is allowed to portray himself in what happened, as if he were the family's breadwinner and a normal person, without being checked or asked any follow-up questions in the film, is rank and disgusting. Maybe they were afraid he'd beat their asses too. When I hear the parasitic Stroud speaking of spending his own money toward Nina's career, my head rang out, your money? What damn money did you have of your own? As Nina tells us, when she hooked up with him, old boy already had the financial teeth of several marriages and 3 kids deep in his butt. Another glaring example of the anti-black liberation angle of the film is when Andy refers to the Stokely Carmichaels and H. Rap Browns of Nina's inner circle as black militant terrorists. Pig. Without a peep of rebuttal. Maybe the filmmakers were afraid. Curiously, Stroud doesn't come off as fearsome in Alan Light's book, What Happened, Miss Simone. In this book, Lisa repeats the story that Mama first told in her autobiography about Wilhelm Langenberg, the 300-pound Dutch owner of Philips Records. He's the original Big Willie, 300 pounds. He wasn't the least intimidated by Stroud. Big Willie told him, look, Andy, you have no deep sense of color yourself. You don't really know even who you are. But Nina has color. She knows who she is, and she's put on the weight of 40 million people on her back. You know, you should be more gentle with her and keep your hands off of her. The trap Lisa Simone Kelly's responses to being caught between her parents' intensely tragic relationship was even more complicated. But they too reveal a stunning lack of socio-political awareness. The words of Nina Simone's daughter that she is more like her father, more individualistic, concerned about cash and creature comforts than consciousness and liberation in a society that hunts black people like animals and typically frees the murderers in courts of so-called law. Lisa at one point effuses that her father was the original Puff Daddy, as if that were a good thing and of some socio-political value. Such a characterization should have been loaded with exploitative implication, all associated with the film, okay? If they had recognized that Andy Stroud, who, like Sean Combs, was a parasite, who pimped the talented, who overbooked, used, viciously abused, and lived off their artistic gifts. But Lisa doesn't seem to mean this at all. It's so unfortunate and sad the way she superficially says, quote, he really had a vision. He was a very astute businessman who had a strategic plan in terms of how Mom's career was gonna go. You see Jesus too? And it was all working very well until she got touched by civil rights. And the plan went out the window. I'm talking about apolitical. Our rights and lack of freedom is not a spectator sport. The above are telltale lines of a pathetically right-wing Negro faith in the belief of a system of oppression which money can buy you everything, including peace of mind, spiritual salvation, and further, that liberation is of no real concern. Not true. Lisa also uses these so-called conservative lines, saying that her mother chose to, quote, utilize the stage as a platform from which to speak out and feel like she was doing something meaningful for her, my emphasis, people. No, Nina Simone in her prime, always and at her best, knew that she was a warrior against the system of white domination in the world. The film is brave enough to show that. She knew she was doing the right thing for black people worldwide, which is why she remains the great Nina Simone. While there are currently 3 films about her, this documentary, the other by Jeff Lieberman, The Amazing Nina Simone. Just like a lot of documentaries, I always get up in Negroes' bedrooms, and this person did them, and that person did them, and so forth. Plus the controversial bioflick Nina, which considered Mary J. Blige, Lauryn Hill, before settling on Zoe Saldana. Yeah. It's a question. Several reissues of her recordings, tribute collections, and the reasons, all these are the reasons why we're here today. Nina Simone most definitely was not just another grinning and grinding, mindless black torch singer trying to non-confrontationally get rich so she could mindlessly purchase manufactured goods in white folks' capitalist system. Nina's true legacy is that of an African-American warrior woman who discovered and actualized her true identity, who fought back against the devil. 11 years before she passed, she wrote in I Put a Spell on You. I started to work on this book, looking back over a life which I have no regrets about. Plenty of mistakes, some bad days, and most resonant of all, years of joy. Hard, but joyous all the same. Fighting for the rights of my brothers and sisters everywhere, America, Africa, all over the world. Years where pleasure and pain were all mixed together. I knew then, and I still do, that the happiness I felt and still feel as we move forward was a kind that few people ever experience. Trump has his way of being fewer still. When Nina made her transition into the realm of the sacred ancestors in 2003, her true friend, the great Miriam Makeba, said, quote, she was a great artist, but she was also someone who fought for liberty. The eulogy message from the South African government read, Nina Simone was a part of history. She fought for the liberation of black people everywhere. It is with much pain that we receive the news of her death, end quote. Confused flag-waving consumers and haters aside, Nina Simone, though battered and beaten up, remained crystal clear about her identity right up to the very end, as is seen in the fact that, quote, at her request, her ashes were scattered across several countries in her beloved Africa. After the film was completed and the smoke cleared, Lisa and Andrew were fighting it out in court over Nina's hard-earned money. Lisa brought an over $155 million suit in damages against her father, the first P. Diddley Squad. Andy passed in 2012, and Lisa is now chilling in her mother's home in the south of France after inheriting $5 million that was left from all the bootlegging and legal haggling. Liz Garvin's slippery film takes far too little notice of the financial abuse, the business as usual robbery that marks a black artist's career. Nina Simone suffered horribly while others luxuriated off of her earnings, while still others come along later to be paid off her tragedy, and all of them claim that she brought it all on herself. I thank you.
How you doing, brother? I'm honored to be here. She was, like you say, an activist, and she turned her verbs into action instead of verbal distraction. She looked for the thing, she just did the substance. Right. And I like the way they showed her when she was a young child, starting off, seeing this group, and her mother and father instilled her, and all our other leaders that grew up with you.
Yeah, that's a powerful thing, that the natural adult, the natural child before adulthood, not yet conditioned to accept the madness. You know? Okay, thank you.
Doc.
Hey, Wright.
Hey. Why is it still, well, I guess I still don't understand this, why is it so common that most of our writers, performers, activists have found so much refuge in other countries? Not as much, I guess I don't know enough about currently, but previously, why is it so common that there's always this broken thread of decades living in another country?
That still happens, you know. Gil Scott Heron moved to England before the end, and the great Ta-Nehisi Coates is in France now.
You said who though?
Ta-Nehisi Coates, who wrote Between the World and Me, The Beautiful Struggle. He moved to Paris. There's a great article he did on Barack Obama. You don't miss it, in the Atlantic. Yeah, I mean, just Ta-Nehisi is something else. But there are almost no words to describe the hatred that wicked people in this country. I don't want to give the impression that everybody in this country is wicked, or everybody white in this country is a racist dog. Lord knows there's enough of them. But these particular people have a hatred to black people for black people that's difficult to describe, especially to black people that are disturbers of the peace. Black artists, black writers, black musicians can go abroad to Asia, to Japan, to China, okay, to Europe, all over Europe, okay, and get respect as people. You know, every time I've been to Europe, but the first time it happened, I was shocked to not be niggered 24 hours a day. You know what I'm saying? In the elevator, anywhere, you know. But that's part of it, you know. Black artists will say that the Europeans don't pay you much better than these white folks over here do. Okay? But at least they give you your propers as an artist, okay? And have you living at some kind of livable kind of wage, you know. But as you see what happened to Nina Simone, abroad is the only place she could make it. But that's the story that goes back at least into the 19th century, okay, where black people, if they were literate, first of all, if you're literate, you're like an accident of white racist nature. You're like, how did he escape? You know what I'm saying? How'd you not wind up in jail? When I first started teaching college at Michigan State, Tamara Sanders is in the house job, in the 1970s, and I was in class talking about classes I was teaching in the penitentiary, you know, and I said casually, well, when I was in the pen teaching, a white girl screamed, I knew it! I knew it! You know, that's what I'm saying. As if say we all jailbirds. But no, it comes to a lack of respect, you know, and fear and loathing of the talented black person. You know, it's like people like that are like bad apples that spoil the rest of the barrel, you know. My sister.
Thank you. Dr. Peters, I thank you for your analysis and commentary after the film. I'm glad I stayed and heard some of that. I missed just a little of it, but I think I did hear enough of it, so I'm glad I could hear that.
I appreciate that, Precious.
Thank you. Now, There's something I would like for you to expand on. You didn't really touch upon it, and it's the daughter Lisa saying that when she got over to, where was it? Was it Liberia when she went to stay with her mom? That her mom started beating on her like her dad was beating on her mom. Can you do an analysis of that, and why was that happening? I believe Lisa, when she said that, that was going on. So can you talk about that?
We need Wade Nobles, you know, the dean of black psychologists, you know, Francis Gresham Wells in France for knowing somebody to talk about that really. But I know this from people that know Nina Simone, that this country and its doctors, the European world and its doctors, know precious little about treating mental illness, especially for mental illness of black people. You know what I'm saying? Because it's their shit that's crazy.
Come on.
Huh? I mean, when a black person who wants to be like Nina Simone was as a child, you know, wants to live without fear, how you gonna do that in the USA? You know, so it's in all ways tragic. I'm curious when I think about Lisa Stroud Kelly, and she's become Simone now that she's making a living riding her mama's name. You know, she calls herself a singer now. You hear that? But, you know, I wonder about her education, her lack of curiosity. You know, as if she had never wondered about any of these things or tried to figure these things out. But she too, she seemed to blame her mother when she saw Andy whip her ass. Huh? Andy talking about, I cut the eyelid, stitch it up, and, you know, Svengali, you know. I mean, that's, you know, it's just tragic, you know, but I won't pretend to be a head doctor, you know, and try to say how that could be how that could be worked out. But it's all oppression related, okay, and related to the fact that she had parents who were tragically otherwise occupied than with her. But it's just pitiful to see her saying, "Puff Daddy," you know, God.
All right, Doc, I'm glad you came. Leadership is a lonely position, and this movie exemplified that to me.
Yeah.
Like she said, they're killing us one by one. What's she going to do?
Right.
Mental illness, like you said, is something that in our community is rampant. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that, and here's an example of.
Somebody in Detroit told me years ago, said we don't need more prisons, we need more mental hospitals.
Right. The doctors gave her the pills and said, just do what I say do, yes or no.
Yeah.
So what else was she gonna do?
Right.
Which was mental slavery right there.
That's what I mean. And, you know, and I went to college with people who were becoming psychiatrists and so forth. Okay? And that's all they do is pill people. You hear these. I don't want to condemn all of them because I know some that are real people, you know. But I've heard them say, talking about, you know, how crazy their patients were. But what do you do with them? What am I doing with her? I got her on so and so, you know, and just like leave it at that. But it's like experiments, you know, as we heard said in the film that Nina Simone, without this medicine, you know, she could play some music that spin Miles Davis' head, you know.
I read between the lines on a lot that you were saying, and because of your insight, a lot of those in-between things I wouldn't have gotten. One of the things I got was the fact that when she had the baby, the baby was taken away because she was on the road so much.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that had some effect.
No, and he was a slave driving ass, you know, and these men that wind up being the managers of their wives, they're worse than pimps, but they're very pimp-like, you know. And he's talking about our business and my plans and my money, you know, and that's right. Some sister said that's his job, paying paying the taxes, you know, but the whole system, okay, in Nina's book, she makes a big point out of this. Andy at one point brought her back to the States in the late 70s to do one more tour, and she fell into the clutches of the legal system. And the judge that handled her case was an esteemed negress from Memphis in the Bahamas, Constance Baker Motley. You ever heard of her? Constance Baker was one of Goody's, one of Thurgood Marshall's people. Okay, and she's supposed to be an expert on taxes and so forth. Okay, and Nina went before C.B. Motley about her tax cases, and Andy's mess never did come up. Never even came up. Nina Simone gets sentenced, and they call Constance Baker Motley a great black woman jurist and so forth. But why you take a dump on the high priestess of soul, you know? But she found her guilty, gave her a fine, you know, gave her a suspended sentence, and Nina had to leave the country again. I mean, it was a long time when Nina Simone was tortured. I mean, you could see how you could become crazy. You got millions of dollars that you can't touch, and you got this man who's beating you like a drum, and he's still living a life, and here you are broke, okay, with the daughter, okay, his kid. Psychologically, all that's rich with all types of tragic possibilities. That's, you know, and it's sad that Lisa's caught up in it, but, you know, at least she has the comfort to be chilling in, you know, in luxury, since that's what she loves, apparently. You putting this out, Charles?
Yeah. We started this adventure at 4 p.m. today, and really it's a testament to the film and to Dr. Peters that you are still currently engaged, and we certainly appreciate that on behalf of the museum. Can we give Dr. Peters another round of applause?